some of that paper?
Immediate medical care. Anyone done first aid? Years ago, first aid, yeah.
Doing it now.
Yeah.
Doing it now.
Next month.
Right.
Yesterday, so
Doing it next month. How long were you here last night? What time did who was it? Was it a woman doing it?
yeah,
A black woman?
yeah.
Alright. What time did she start?
About
5?
just
Finish
before.
about 7?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, not everybody. Somebody stayed because it goes like whoever does first, you go home. So whoever was smarter, you do your bit and you jacket. Yeah.
And what are you getting at the end of that? Level 3 first aid?
I don't know. I'm doing emergency. I'm only doing 2 days.
Oh, you're
Right?
doing emergency, so
but
just a one day.
It's a big difference. No, 2 days.
Well, sorry. You're doing today and tomorrow?
Yesterday and
yesterday and
today.
today. No, you're saying 2 days, but the emergency first aid is like 6 hours or 1 day course.
Oh, is it much different? Can I ask? Is it much different between emergency
You just
and...
do more conditions.
But it still stands as the same first aid, is it?
It's first aid, it's just a lower level. Right?
Ah.
In the UK, what we've got is what's called a curriculum framework for education levels or qualification levels. All right. Level 1 you do before your GCSEs. Level 2 is the equivalent of GCSE. Level 3 is an A level. Okay, so it's structured like that. And recently, for the past 2 or 3 years, they brought first aid in line with these levels. So your emergency first aid is level 2, like a GCSE. Your full first aid at work is level 3, like an A level.
Is it alright to do the supervisor job and with emergency one only, or it's got to be?
That's down to the principal contractor. Because the guy on the course last week, he said the principal contractor is only accepting full first aid at work 3 days. But that's the first time I've heard of it.
Oh, so normally it's enough. Normally it's enough emergency.
Right. Well, we'll come on to what we need on site. All right.
Okay.
What levels? So what is first aid though? Who's done the first aid training? Go on then. All right. Good stuff. Yeah. Okay. The way I used to teach this is first aid. Anything happens, and that anything happens, people automatically think, oh, it's someone with an arm chopped off. Yeah, it's something serious. It could be someone that just turns up one day and goes, I don't feel too good. Alright, so you get an incident, it might be hospital, it might be 999 called out. Alright, so you get the incident, you get the specialist. You deal with anything in between. That's what first aid is. Okay, so it could be anything. You've got different levels of it. Okay. How do you know what you're going to employ on site? All the law says is you must have a safe workplace. You must account for, CDM says, you must have emergency precautions in place for any outcome. Okay. There is a guidance leaflet. HSE have given a guidance leaflet out that says, depending on the activity and depending on how many people you have on site, you might have a different number of people at the different levels of first aid qualifications. Okay. So it's called a first aid needs assessment. Right. What are we going to look at that would help us determine what first aid we might need on site? What level of first aid training? Alright, so that's talking about the job. So the jobs that are going on. So the different work activities that are in the workplace. Yeah, what else? Number of people on site. What else? Kind of. Right. What first aid do you need for working in that chicken shop over there? Alright, a burns kit, but what level of training first aid? What? You probably have the basic first aid. Alright. What did we say yesterday about the Olympic Park? What did they have? They looked for a hospital. They had their own hospital in there. Slightly different between that and the Olympic Park. What's different? Size of the site, 6 London boroughs. 6,000 people there. Heavy lifting equipment, excavating equipment. Okay, diversion of waterways, right? So lots of flammable materials. Okay. How remotely are the workers spread over a site? Okay. How close are you to a hospital? Okay. When you're planning it, the designers look at it, site manager looks at it, and he says, "This is what we're going to need in terms of first aid, because of the amount of people, the work, the equipment, the area, proximities of hospitals. And they'll say, I need, these are the 4 levels, you can see them on the right hand side of 122. Appointed person. Appointed person is what we call, well, it's what I call a Mickey Mouse course. Right? The ones that aren't any good for first aid, any appointed persons, before I upset you. Alright? Listen, you cannot exactly, you're not great for first aid, you might be a bit squeamish. You might not like the pictures of fingers missing, you might be hiding like that, right? Yeah? Right? So we're not going to let you deal with it, but what we might do is, you might be the one that phones the ambulance, you might be the one that stands at the gate, wait for the ambulance to direct them into the site and show them where the incident is. Yeah, that's like an appointed person, that's all they do. Very minimum training, but it's a level of first aid. Okay? Emergency first aid, that's your 1-day course. Split it over 2 evenings, so yeah. But it's your 1-day course, 6 hours. First aid at work, the full 3-day course. And then additional training. Additional training for things like using defibrillators. Okay? You can go on a course to learn how to use them.
That's what we done yesterday, to be fair.
What, the defib course?
Yeah. Yeah, we used it, that.
Yeah, they've been included in the 3 days as well.
We did use that yesterday in practical stuff.
Using how you did? Got the pads on.
Yeah,
press
yeah,
smart, it talks to you.
talks to you and you follow the rules, follow what he says how you doing it.
Yeah. They're quite easy to use.
Yeah,
You don't,
it's
you
all
don't
being
need a
told
course.
to you how to do it, yeah. But
You
I'm
don't
saying, no, I'm just saying we use it.
Okay.
It's wheel probably, is it?
Huh?
Is it wheel? Or doing it
I
that?
don't really need that for your 1-day course.
No, there's a fair bit to get into a 1-day course. Alright. I know some awarding bodies, they make you teach 9 hours because if you do the 1-day course and then throw the defibrillator in the end, it's not really 9 hours, it's about another hour on the end of a 1-day course to go through practicing using a defibrillator. Anyway, nothing to do with me. Right. So, if you turn over the page, so the ones who've done first aid, what did they teach you on your first aid course?
Help the casualties. Help the casualties or the
Help the
people who've
casualties?
been
No,
injured on site.
Your personal safety is paramount. Dr. ABC.
Yeah.
Danger.
Danger?
Response, airway, breathing, circulation.
Or circulation. Okay. So, there's an unwritten rule in first aid. Okay? You as the first aider, you never put yourself at more risk than anybody else. Okay? Don't be selfish. Okay? If someone's fallen in an excavation and they're injured, if it looks like the sides are going to collapse, you don't get yourself in there. Right? What you do is you make it safe first, so you check for danger. There's no danger to yourself, casualty, or anybody else. Right. That is kind of reflected on page 124, immediate action. Right. If you are the first on scene where someone suffered a serious accident, you should ensure the following. Assess the situation to ensure there is no danger to yourself or others. If necessary, safe to do so, remove or isolate the source of danger. Alright, so yeah, if there is a danger, remove it to make it safe for yourself. Only move the casualty if absolutely necessary, stay with the casualty and send this appointed person through. Confirm that someone has called the emergency services. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into first aid. Okay, and this is just kind of giving you information about what to do with first aid. Right, separate course. Okay. Just remember, if you are a first aider, the bump at the side of that, there'll be forms to fill in. Maybe an accident form, incident form. Okay. Might even be a riddle. Okay, so just be mindful of it as a supervisor. If you look onto the next page, 126. Suggested numbers of first aid personnel to be available at all times people are at work. The clue is in that first word, suggested. It's not law, it comes under a guidance leaflet from the HSE. So you can see if it's low hazard or high hazard. Low hazard, fewer than 25, at least one appointed person. As the hazards increase, become more serious, and you get more people, you want more qualified first aiders in there, yeah? So remember the different levels of first aid training. Remember what first aid is. Okay? Remember what the first step is. Right. PPE. What do we know about PPE so far?
It's relevant to the job you're doing.
Okay, so it comes from the risk assessment. Risk assessment is carried out. We try and eliminate the risk. If we can't eliminate it, we try and control it. Okay? So the last form of control, last resort, is PPE. Okay? For example, put in the blocks yesterday, what we said is we try and get rid of it. If we can't get rid of it, we'll try and control it. Okay? One of the controls, first and foremost, was using water and then using mask and extraction. Yeah.
It's free. Employer must pay. Employer must supply for free.
It's got to be supplied for free as long as you work for it, because some people they don't get argumentative. They go, was that a call or was that a message?
Should we read it out loud?
Read it out, yeah.
Read it out loud. Has anyone seen the video of the teacher in America?
Yeah.
He has the same rule. Has anyone not seen it? And the phone rings.
Oh, yeah.
Right, it's a big setup. The phone rings and he went, right, loudspeaker. And this girl answers it. He says, hi, I'm phoning from fertility clinic. And he went, whoa, just not on loudspeaker. And he's like dying of embarrassment. And he says, I'd just like to say your test has come back positive. Congratulations, you're going to be a mom. She's like, okay, you're on class group. And he's like, she finished the phone call and he says, I'm really sorry if you want to go back to the principal and report this. Hands up. And she went, no, it's alright. Me and my boyfriend know about it, we were expecting a call. We're hoping it's going to be a girl, because if it's a girl, we're going to call her April Fools. And then the class erupts and he's just like, he takes it really well, to be fair. Brilliant. Right, so, PPE, we said yesterday, provided free of charge, is specific to the job, but it's the last line of control. Okay, it's down in the bottom two, which were what are called admin controls. Yeah. So that means they rely more on the people than the ones above it. PPE is totally reliant. People. I'll tell you how stupid some people can be. Who wears masks at work? You don't need to wear masks. Alright. Have you had face fit testing done? Yeah. Which test did you have done?
Yeah,
When they put the hood on?
yeah, the
Right.
back
I
on.
got around doing that. I've done it for a while.
Oh, you can't do it
Why not?
because you need to shave your beard.
No, I can test you. I go around testing, can't I? Clearly. A lot of people say that. You can't. What do you mean I can't test you? You got to know, I'm not wearing the mask. Alright. So I'll confirm. What I do is, it comes to me, alright, I put the hood on him and I spray this horrible bitter solution. You get a sweet solution, but as testers you go, what's the fun in that? Alright, you just get the really horrible tasting one. Spray it into the side of the hood, count how many times it goes in. And so I'll go, yeah, I can taste it. Yeah? Right, take the hood off, go outside, get some fresh air, get rid of that taste. Comes back in, right, when the taste has gone from his mouth, he then hands me his mask, I have a look at it, I'll go, right, put it on for me. So he puts his mask on, he makes sure it's all tight, and I put the hood back on. Okay? And then, over 7.5 minutes, I get him to do certain things. Every 30 seconds I'm spraying a
set amount of this stuff into the side of the hood. Like it goes in the front, but pointed to the side. So if after 7.5 minutes it comes out and he goes, can't taste it, that's telling you the mask fits. If he tastes it at any point, the mask isn't quite fit properly, as in face fit test. Alright. And towards the end of the day, I'm doing this test, and I kid you not. Right. This guy comes in, I've done the first bit, I went, right, show us your mask. I looked at it and I went, why is there a hole in your mask? And he went, oh, I put that there. I went, so you drilled a hole in your mask? He went, yeah. I went, go on. And he went, it's not a cigarette. Genuinely. And I was looking at him, space looking, and I went, I was trying to say, you know why you wear a mask? And he went, well, yeah, but I smoke about 60 a day, it's just quicker. I was like, a cigarette. Well, what about smoking shelters? He went, I sometimes get there. I'm breathing in cigarette smoke. He went, so what's it matter if I'm breathing in other crap as well? So this is why, genuine story, but I always say this because this backs up how stupid people are, and that is why PPE is solely reliant on the person wearing it as it's supposed to be worn, when it's supposed to be worn, and not to do stupid things like that too. Okay? So, there's rules and regulations, there's a set of regulations covering PPE. Right? It's also covered in the Act. The Act bit says it's got to be provided free of charge. Okay? The regulations say it's got to be relative to work, it's got to be, the employer's got to make sure it's suitable, make sure it's compatible. Okay? Because you generally have 5 points of PPE. If you have any more PPE thrown into the mix, you've got to make sure that all the PPE works with each other, compatible. Okay? For example, if you have a hard hat on with goggles and ear defenders, you want to make sure that they all fit. Yeah, the goggles fit, the hat fits, the ear defenders fit at the same time. So one isn't stopping the other from doing its job. If not, the employer has to look at something else. Okay. They might have to provide an area to store it. Okay, not in use. The employee, they don't look after it. They can't just be throwing things around or losing it. They're not looking after it. They're not following health and safety law. Okay. And then we'll talk about COSH. Nothing else on PPE. We covered most of it yesterday. Right, so chapter 11, hazardous substances. Right, control of substances hazardous to health, not only to the health, but to the environment. Okay? Where do we find these hazardous substances? Everywhere? Where then? Where do we get them from?
Fuel machinery.
Alright, fuel and machinery, yeah, where else?
Even cement.
Paint.
Paint.
Chemical fixers. Chemical fixers.
Chemical fixes, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. Otherwise, it's like a kind of silicone, but
Yeah,
it's, so
I'm
close.
going to bomb one of them. Right, so chemical fixes, gases, liquids, alright, paints. We get these from, we buy them, don't we? So we get them from manufacturers. Okay. So, as in we buy them. Where else? How else do we get these in the workplace? What were we asking? Who was it yesterday? Was it Greg asking? Right. The task we did yesterday with the concrete blocks. So the concrete blocks.
The dust.
Right, dust.
Right.
Is it hazardous to your health?
Yeah.
Alright. So it's still covered under COSH. Right. So we create them through processes in the workplace. How else do we get them? Naturally occurring. Asbestos, for example, is an naturally occurring mineral that's dug out of the ground. Not so much in the UK. The only time you get in the UK is if you dig out the stuff that's already been buried. So, stuff that occurs naturally. you remember yesterday when I talked about the difference between health and safety, and I said, what do you think we focus on more, the health or the safety? I said safety, really. Yeah, short-term stuff. It's a bit similar where we don't really mean to neglect the health side of things, but even if you look at the hazardous to health substances, okay, these things that are purchased in, what do they come with?
Labels, words.
Stickers. They're like this, aren't they? Red diamond. What's that red diamond tell you? Well, it's hazardous. You see that on a label, that label on a container. You think, could be a bit naughty that. You tend to take more notice of that because it's got the label on it than you do dust. So some of this stuff might cause irritation to your skin, but you see a label and you go, ooh, stay away from that. But you'll still see people cutting concrete blocks with clouds of dust all around them, which is probably worse. So why do we not take more notice of, or as much notice of dust or naturally occurring things than we do these things?
It's not actually telling you on it.
Because you don't get this big warning label. You don't get ding, 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 ding. Be careful of this stuff. Okay? The idea is as supervisors, as the go-between management and your workers, is to try and identify all things that are hazardous for their health, or the environment, okay? And get your lads and lasses to treat them equally. Okay? Use the same precautions you do with dust, yeah, as you would with paints, chemical fixers, solvents, fuels, etc. Okay? Right. There's regulations that cover every chapter that we're looking at. Control of substances hazardous to health, risks, places legal duties on employees, employees, and self-employed, protects against the effects of working with any substances which can result in health problems. Right. So what have we got to do? What have we done with hazards so far?
Eliminate them if possible.
Before we eliminate them.
Identify them.
Who said that, George? Sounded like it. Identify them. Alright. How do we identify hazards?
Risk assessment.
By doing a risk assessment. So what are we going to do with these substances that are hazardous to health?
Store it safely.
So, with hazards so far, we've done a risk assessment. What are we going to do with chemical hazards, or hazards that substances that are hazardous to health? They're still hazards. What are we going to do? Another risk assessment. We don't call it a risk assessment, though, do we? What do we call it? It's still a risk assessment on hazardous substances, but we don't call it a risk assessment. A cost assessment. In the same vein, we'll come on to this later on. If I'm going to identify fire hazards, I carry out a fire assessment, fire risk assessment. It's the same process. What do we do first?
Probability.
ID hazards. Yeah? Then what do we do? Look at who's going to be harmed, how they're going to be harmed. Then what? You've been concentrating on that 2-hour drive in, haven't you? Evaluate and control. Then record it. And finally, what was the last step? Yeah, review. Monitor and review. Right. That's for a risk assessment. That's for general hazards. What do we do with hazards or substances that are hazards? We do a cost assessment. It is the same thing. What do we do with a fire risk assessment? We identify fire hazards. My point is, a risk assessment is a risk assessment is a risk assessment. Just because you do it for different topics doesn't mean the process changes. So, following on from that, do you remember that task we had yesterday? Was it Greg asking Brad, employer, employee, asking them to do something? One of the things we had to do, all those arrows that were going one way and then the other, if I take that task out of the way, cutting concrete blocks, yeah, and if I replace it by working with a hazardous substance, does that relationship change? Does the responsibilities change on both parts? No, it's the same thing. So if Grace now asking Brad to work with a hazardous substance, he identifies it, dust, in that task. He's got to look at dust. Oh, I might do a cost assessment on that. So what's he going to do? What did we do yesterday? Well, he's got to do a cost assessment. He's got to provide possibly equipment. So he's got to make sure the equipment's in good working order. He might have to provide PPE. He might have to provide RPE, respiratory protective equipment. That's just breathing equipment that's there to protect you. It's a form of PPE. Okay. He's got to do the safe system of work, cost assessment and method statement after it. He's got to make sure he's trained to work with this hazardous substance. He's using the right information, instruction, training, supervision when he's working with it. Okay. So what's Brad got to do? For everything, he's got to do it. Yeah, same as before, nothing changes. So, there's responsibilities on both parties still, and everybody else, when you look at cost. So all these substances, they're hazardous to either an individual's health or the environment. Okay? The employer's got responsibilities, so has the employee. It's the same as general hazards. It's got to be risk assessed, have a method statement, safe system of work generally, PPE provided, training, equipment. What else would the employer have to do? Well, it's a health hazard. So what would they have to introduce? Bonus point if anyone gets this. Protection for the public. So what I said yesterday, even though you're putting control measures in place, if you're exposing people to health hazards, well, check controls and what's called health surveillance. Remember it from yesterday? I know there's a load of information yesterday. Yeah, your brains are like that at the minute. Oh, I exploded. Okay. So, if you are exposing people to a health risk, you must have health surveillance in place. And what I said yesterday was, so you're exposing the workers to dust. So you might give them a lung function test. You get an occupational specialist in to do a lung function test, maybe annually or biannually. Okay. And then they do that. If it shows they've got any problems with the breathing, it tells you your control measures aren't working. If they are clear, it tells you control measures work. Remember it? Yeah. Okay. So, if you look at page 146, control of substance hazardous to health, it starts talking about different exposures. Can you see that first blue bold paragraph? Many of the substances commonly used in construction activities have the potential to cause serious health problems if the risks are not evaluated. So what we can gather is a lot of substances we either purchase in, or we create, or we come across naturally on construction sites can be hazardous to health. Therefore, always a lot of cost assessments used in the workplace. Okay, turn over the page, 148. And we can talk about these symbols. Right, red diamond. What colour did they used to be? Orange diamond. Okay. Do you know where the orange diamond came from? The European standard. Okay. It was, I think, late 2000, before 2010 anyway. Governments, there's a particular set of governments called the G whatever. Anyway, they sent all their representatives to go away and discuss certain things like climate change, and they went to this Earth Summit. And one of the burning issues that they had to resolve was how we're going to get the whole world recognising hazardous substances. So rather than have different symbols in different countries, we'll have one system that's used around the world. Okay? And they developed this GHS Global Harmonised Standard. Okay, so one of the important things that they developed while they were away on this Earth Summit was everywhere around the world now, wherever you go, if it's a hazardous substance that's manufactured, it should have this red diamond on there. Okay. Red diamond. Okay. So if there's nothing in it, red diamond, it tells you it's a hazardous product. Okay. The type of hazard is then shown by what's put inside. New system, global harmonised standard. Okay. And do you know where they went to do all this? Not Romania, Lithuania, not Brighton, not Spain, Rio de Janeiro. Right, for a good 2 or 3 weeks, just to live it up probably.
Yeah.
And come up with this. Right, new system though, global harmonised system. They first brought it in and they went, we'll give you 5 years, we'll give the whole world 5 years in which to change over from orange to these. They still didn't do it. 5 years wasn't long enough, so they gave them another 2 years. Alright, so now you can still see vehicles going around with orange diamonds on them. Alright, they should have got to that. Anyway, have a look at that page there. Okay, I'm not going to say you need to remember this one, you need to remember that one. Commonly, you might get asked about these symbols. It might be the questions towards the end. They might give you 3 symbols and say, tell us what these are. Where can you find this information? In the book.
Page 148.
Page 148. I don't remember that. Jot that down if you will.
We can have one of these each.
You have that. If you're here for 6 weeks, you might get one each. I don't know. I'll check to see if they've got anybody. Funny thing is, right, last time I was here, I can't even remember the last time I was here. And a couple of weeks back, I looked on where my bedroom where I stick on my shoes and that. I said, oh, that bookcase. And I went, what's that key for? Where did I have this key from? It's a key to get in here. I've never even checked if I had the key or anything like that. But luckily, who was here to let us in this morning?
No one.
No, because I had the key. No one even phoned me and going, what time you turned up in the morning? You know, we need to be here to let you in. So when do you think we're going to get books for everybody for the reference?
So they don't even know
We're
you've
gonna
got
get a
everything.
good review.
I know, we're going to wait till out the stream and go, how's I going to get in this morning? They'll probably say, well, we give Alan and he's got a key.
I suppose when we do, obviously when we do personnel, yeah, obviously we must have.
Listen, at the end, I give you an evaluation form.
Yeah.
What do you think of the course? You put on there, it's a bit shoddy with the books. Right. So, look at the different symbols. There's a few there you can pick out. Toxic, skull and crossbones. Okay. Then you got the dangerous cricket bat. So the exclamation mark for harmful to skin and irritant. The new one really is, if you look opposite to that exclamation mark, you can see it's like got the top half of the body, and then it's got something happening inside. We used to have slightly more symbols. There was symbols that would say, this product, or this is hazardous because it causes cancer, it's a carcinogen. This causes toxicity for reproduction, so don't go near it if you want to become a parent. This causes respiratory disorders, lead to asthma or can stop your breathing, so it can cause asphyxia as well. One causes germ cell mutagenicity, causes cells to grow differently. Certain substances can target organs and shut them down. There's a few more as well, and what they've done is just group all them together and put them under this new symbol to say this is going to cause serious long-term health hazards to your organs. Okay. There's a few more there, but look, if you don't know off the top of your head what these symbols are, just wait until the end, last 10 minutes, I'll look in the book on that page there, 148. Okay, right. Oh, 10 past 10. Nearly, alright. Any questions on what we've done so far? No? Right. I'll start back at 20 past 10. Lead is a cumulative poison, that means it builds up. Okay? It collects in the bone marrow and affects the body's capability to produce new blood cells. It affects the brain, central nervous system, and reproductive systems. It is usually taken into the body in the form of dust or fumes. Okay. Do you know what fumes are? Anyone think? We do respiratory hazards shortly after this. Okay. But do you know what fumes are?
Substance, as in like a smell or smoke or steam.
So icy gas.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in a gas state.
A gas state, that'd be gases. So at room temperature, if it's gaseous state, that's a gas. Okay. At room temperature, it's a metal.
Yeah.
And then you heat it up, okay, it becomes a gas, and then particles float around, you breathe them in. That's what you are smelling now in fumes. Normally metallic elements that when heated up from room temperature, high temperatures, the metal particles start floating around, you can breathe them in, they then go in your body, cool down, guess what? You've got tiny metal particles inside. Or with lead, if you're handling it all the time, tiny particles can rub off into your skin. And then what do you do? Pick something up, that, eat it, alright, or a cigarette, and you start putting it towards your mouth and swallow it, and then it goes into your system that way. And it's one of those things, you cannot expel it from your body. So once it gets into your body, it stays there, and you won't get rid of it. And it builds up. The more you take on board, obviously you don't want to be going around chewing on lead slates, okay? It's tiny amounts, but you don't need a lot of it to start affecting you. So, it's usually taken in the body in the form of dust or fumes, breathed in by ingestion via the mouth or absorbed through the skin. Okay. Regulations supported by CDM require lead hazards to be identified. Same with any hazard, isn't it? You've got to identify it. The regulations aim to give greater protection of health to people at work by reducing their exposure to lead and thus concentrations of lead in their blood. Where lead concentrations prove to be too high, employers are required to remove employees from work with lead. If employers cannot transfer employees to other work not involving exposure to lead, they must pay them suspension pay under Employment Rights Act. Did you know that? So if you're working with lead and your levels get too high, if it's exposing you to this health hazard, then it must be health surveillance. They must monitor. They check your blood levels. Blood lead level. Try saying blood lead level. Try saying that quick as you can 3 times.
Blood level.
Blood lead levels. That's nice. Romanian said it better than me. Yeah. I told him English is up the issue. Right. If they can't give you any work, they've got to pay you while you're not working with the lead.
So once, can you reduce the level?
No.
So once it's there, it's...
Yeah, it's a cumulative one, so it builds up.
Yeah.
In fact, don't quote me on it. If you looked in the SSSTS book, it is something like, right, if I have a grain of sugar on that finger, alright, if I have a glass of wine, or half a glass of wine, right, let's say 60 mil, something like that, I think the figures show. If I have I think it's something like, again, don't quote me, 1/10 of that grain of sugar into a tenth of that half a glass of wine. Okay? If that averages out throughout your body, then it's at a dangerous level. Okay? So you don't need a lot. Listen, bottom line is you want to stop it getting into your system because it affects the brain, it affects the nervous system, okay, and it can.
You don't need a lot of that, do you? Not like asbestos.
Well, not so much now because we stopped using it.
Yeah.
Right? We stopped using it because we found out the dangers behind it.
Yeah.
Right? But you still, where are you going to come across it now? So plumbing definitely, but roofs where you're either repairing or replacing it, lashings round chimneys or the lead tiles. Okay. Or lead paints. You're going in and refurbishing old buildings. Okay, generally in the old buildings, when you get the lead paint, you start burning it, sanding it, alright, scraping it off, flakes, release the dust of the lead into the atmosphere, and you can be breathing it in.
Do they not use it at all now as a new product?
Yeah.
I still do.
Yeah, still
Oh,
uses
so
it.
it's not bad like
The guy last week who said his company's got this lead. Some buildings like that are listed. He said he had to put this down. He said it's something to do with how it's reacting. Because when it's on the roof like that, and the heat coming up creates a moisture on the underside of the tile. That moisture then reacts with it, and it's called lead oxide. He says, and when you're looking at it like that, it's like a white powder. And the white powder, it's concentrated. So that's more of a danger than the actual lead is itself. So basically, it's dangerous. If it gets into your system, it builds up. So we don't want to work with it. If we have to work with it, we have precautions in place. Right. What you want to be mindful of is what you're going to do as employers if the main route of lead into the body is through breathing in or swallowing. Alright, have masks. What are you not going to let your workers do? Kind of, but while they're working with lead, what are you not going to let them do?
Smoke.
Smoke, for what? Drink, eat. Because what that's doing is, if they're working with lead and they go, oh, I'm just going to have a quick cigarette, or no, don't allow them to do it because it's tempting to put their hands to the mouth, and that means if they haven't washed, or they haven't got rid of it, then it's going to be putting things to the mouth and taking lead on board. Alright, so you might want to remember it.
Obviously, it's down to them to wear gloves as well.
Well, it's down to risk assessment method statement, PPE as a preventative measure, as well as other things.
It's PPE down to the people using it as well.
Well, you've got to have it in your RAMs, but I know what you mean. It's only effective when the people are wearing it and it's down to them. But if you've got the culture right, if you've done a briefing properly, you make sure that they're wearing their gloves or their other PPE. Right, next one. Asbestos.
I'll stick a film with you. You've got to watch this. Citb states the law. You have to watch it.
My mate bought a Range Rover, but that I bought this the long one, just a mirror, 1,200 pounds.
Right, it looks like they made it.
On the road, the car didn't start.
Again, put it on this sheet at the end of it, just put everything down, just slide them
It
like
was 2012, maybe 2018. This one, the part are expensive as well, I found they were broken, so like.
I was an electrical engineer, I was an electrical apprentice before that. I ran around contracting business.
He was always very busy. In fact, as a family, really, we saw very little of him. He worked 7 days a week sometimes, often doing paperwork, and sometimes it was quite stressful.
It was sort of about 40 years after, 35 I'd say, after the apprenticeship, I started to get pains at the bottom of my chest here. It spread then to my back and up my back, nor around the front part of my chest here near the heart.
There was one particular day I came home and he was actually on his hands and knees and he couldn't hide the pain. And that was when he was taken into hospital. And it was the paramedic who actually said, "Have you worked with asbestos?"
Not until he told me on that day, I've never heard of the disease. They sat us down in a chair and he more or less said to me, "You're going to die."
3 years ago, Simon Clark was diagnosed with mesothelioma. It's a cancer of the lining of the lung, caused when he breathed in asbestos fibres early in his career.
We weren't given any protective clothing, no masks, nothing at all. No training, we had no knowledge of it. We had to go and crawl through all the loft spaces, where there was all insulation, which sometimes was asbestos that had been pumped in. We had to go down all the service ducts that had asbestos lag pipes in them. We had to chop out walls, make holes in walls. Again, quite often they were lined with asbestos.
It's almost impossible to estimate just how much asbestos there is out there. Just about any building constructed before the year 2000, you could probably assume that it's got asbestos in it somewhere. The places where you probably find asbestos in an average building is in corrugated roofing, in ceiling tiles, lino. You could have asbestos lagging around pipes. Often you can find it above ceiling voids. Asbestos you'll find in many different places, including Artex that you find in many domestic homes.
There are around 5,000 deaths from asbestos-related diseases every year. That's compared to an average of 1,700 deaths on the UK's roads. That means asbestos-related diseases are claiming the lives of 94 people a week, or 14 people every day.
All trades and professions that work in a building that's being maintained or refurbished could be at risk of breathing in asbestos fibres, because the fibres are invisible to the naked eye, they're in the air.
Just one exposure to asbestos-containing material can cause cancer and terminal diseases, like Simon's mesothelioma. His diagnosis was immediately life-changing.
It was only a few days after they diagnosed me, they had me in the operating theatre. I had a 6-hour operation. I had two hours in recovery. It's one of the biggest operations they can do. It's like open heart surgery. What they do is they put you on, remove your lung, they then remove the lining of your lung, and then they scrape all the tumour off your lung. Because what happens with mesothelioma, it grows around the lung. So it's in between the lining of the lung and the lung. So that's why it's difficult to diagnose, because it's not like in a mass. It's all the way around your lung. They then removed part of my diaphragm. They removed part of the lining of my heart, and also removed the tumour off the side of my esophagus.
The most scariest thing, I think, was the fear of losing him. The thought of being alone and the children not having their dad.
I can't even bend down and put my socks on very well without getting out of breath even now. That's because I've got no diaphragm. So when I bend down, I can't breathe. I'll tell you, not being able to breathe is horrible. It's horrible. I can't walk far. Obviously can't lift heavy things. I take the dog out every day. That's the only exercise I get, really. It's taking the dog out. I walk probably 2 miles maximum. But that would take me 2 hours. So you can see how slow I'm having to walk and having to stop and gather my breath again. And I miss all my golf, and cycling, and my wife used to do, and when I in a caravan. So I can't do any of that anymore. No cycling, no golf, no fooling around with friends, You lose all that.
Simon's focus is now on raising awareness of the dangers of asbestos.
There is still a gun-ho attitude from workers as well that don't think it's going to happen to them. On the proof that it can happen to you, and it does happen. And it's happening to 5,000 of their colleagues every year.
Currently in the UK, there are 3 main levels of asbestos-related information, instruction and training. Asbestos awareness, known as Category 1, is for persons liable to disturb asbestos-containing materials, ACMs, while carrying out their normal everyday work. This is likely to affect people across a range of professions, including but not limited to those listed below. Non-licensed work with asbestos, including notifiable non-licensed work, is known as Category 2 training and applies to all those whose work will require them to disturb ACMs, such as drilling holes in asbestos materials, including for sampling and analysis purposes, or removing asbestos-containing floor tiles. Finally, Category 3 training is for licensable asbestos work.
For the average contractor and professional person employing people in the construction industry, to make sure that their staff, their workers are safe, there needs to be an awareness of asbestos. And depending on the type of activity they're carrying out, that may be properly done by giving asbestos awareness training. This doesn't equip them to remove it or to handle it, but at least to be aware of where they're likely to find it and what it looks like should they come to expose it. Once the risk has been identified, it can be transferred through contract to specialist contractors to make sure that asbestos is then removed. But they would then be coming in and doing that in a professional way, having then been paid for their services. But the primary responsibility is that of the owner and operator of the building.
So how should ACMs be managed once they've been identified? ACMs found to be in good condition should be left in position, protected and managed if they're not in vulnerable locations. ACMs in a poor condition that cannot safely and easily be repaired, or those that are positioned in vulnerable locations which could easily be disturbed through work such as demolition or major refurbishment, should be removed. For now, Simon's mesothelioma is under control, but there is no cure for this disease.
I still get sad and I still get upset on some days. I'm in pain all the time. Pain doesn't go away. My medications are painkillers every day. But you get used to that and I can just about cope with that. But it's the upsetting things. It's the little things like, am I going to see my daughters go down the aisle? Am I going to be able to take one of my daughters down the aisle? God, that used to upset me. And it still does, very much. Because one thing as a dad, what you want to do is be able to take your daughters down the aisle.
Just sad about the future, really. I don't think about the future very much because we take each day as it comes, we take each month as it comes, and we just hope that Simon can live as long as he can, as healthily as he can. That's what we want. We want him to live healthily as he possibly can for as long as he can.
I was quiet after that video. Then roast, innit? It's like, oh God, what's that? It's a bit heavy, that, isn't it? Why do we show stuff like that? He said it there when people are still going, oh, yeah, I'm not that well out for it, yeah, I have to do it. Honestly, people smashing it, yeah? And it just, you look at that and you go, you can see that bloke's still alive. You notice when he was talking, he talks with him, he's short of breath all the time. Okay, got no diaphragm, he's had part of his lung and throat removed and this, that and the other. Alright, that's what asbestos does to you. Okay? You get some signs up. I'll talk about disease in a second. It's a dangerous material, people. Okay? We started bringing it into the country in the 1880s. 50 years before we got some regulations, we started spraying it. We started banning it. Finally, 1999, we banned the last type of it that was in use in the UK. Other regulations brought out and updated in 2012. This is what that guy's got, mesothelioma. Right. You read the bump there, it's a cross-section of the victim's lung. Mesothelioma is the whitish material. Okay? That's not the lung, and this is a growth. Okay? This is what's grown around his lung. Because this is what it does to you. lung, lining around it. It grows there, like that. Yeah, as it gets bigger, what's it doing to the lung?
So there you go.
Reducing, squashing it. Okay. Now, anyone I know who's worked with asbestos, back this up. Mesothelioma described by many sufferers as being like having your lungs slowly filled with wet concrete. Can't imagine what that's like. I can assume it's not pleasant. But everyone I know who's worked with it has said everyone they know who's got this mesothelioma has gone inside 12 months. When they have it diagnosed, they are then dead inside 12 months. Right. So, what you can get, remember that one. Mesothelioma. What you can also get in the lung is a growth in the tissue of the lung. Yeah. Cancerous growth. You can get lung cancer. You can also get what's called asbestosis. Right, asbestosis. Asbestos plus fibrosis. Right, what's fibrosis? Right, back up my hand. Right. Let it heal, cut it again, let it heal, cut it again, let it heal. Right, if I do that over a minimum 15 years, what you'll generally find is I get a nice thick band of tissue there that's become fibrous. The tissue hardens up and becomes less elastic, it can't move. That's what fibrosis is, and that's what's happening to the inside of the lungs. Why? Because these tiny asbestos fibres can get deep down into your lungs. And when I say tiny, they are microscopic. You can't see it with the naked eye. So they get deep down into your lungs and they sit there, they latch on because not only are they tiny, they've got spiky edges. Yeah, they can stick to anything. So over years, as you're doing, your lungs doing that, they're just scratching away at the inside of the air sacs in your lungs. Okay. So they are hurting it, it heals up, continuously hurting it. So it takes years to develop these, and then once you've developed it, asbestosis, you start suffering from the effects of it. So it's just asbestosis, it's long-term damage to your lungs. Right. This is a picture of a mine in, I think it's Canada. Right. So it's naturally occurring silica minerals, and they can separate it into fibres. We found it in rocks, 5 mil thick, these veins going through the rocks, and we kind of experimented with it to find out we could use this in quite a lot of materials, this asbestos. So we've probably, from the late 1800s, imported millions of tons of stuff. Used in over 3,000 different items, asbestos. And frighteningly, do you see that? We've got 44 million buildings in the UK. About 3/4 of them have got asbestos in. We're not entirely sure where or which ones. So we never kept a record of where we put it. Not totally anyway, so what it means is if we banned the final type in 1999, anything built pretty much 2000, before 2000, is going to have asbestos in it. Like the guy said, the head of Citb, it's pretty sure, labelled on, if you go into an old building, it's got asbestos in it. Right, these fibres, approximately 5 microns. You know what a micron is?
Thousandth of a millimeter?
Thousandth of a millimetre. Okay. 5 microns long, 3 microns wide. Human hair is 60 microns in diameter. Okay. 1 micron of asbestos is the equivalent of human hair split 60 times along its diameter. So if that's a human hair and you cut it in half, like that, take 1/2 away, cut it in half, take 1/2 away. If you do that 60 times, you get down to about the diameter of an asbestos fibre. Alright. So you're not going to see it. microscopic. Body can't get rid of it. Yeah, like the guy said, it's gone up now since this was designed this slide. 5,000 a year. What did he say? It's equivalent of like 14 people a day, right, from previous exposure. I reckon it's increasing by 2020. It'll be nearer 10,000 a year, and then hopefully by 2030, I think it's going to come down. Why do we use it? Fantastic material. Yeah, if you're going to design a material, you design it along the lines of asbestos. It's brilliant. Mechanically very strong. Resistant to temperature change. Okay, so cold doesn't affect it. Protects you from heat. Resistant to rot. Okay, chemicals don't affect it. Bury it in the ground. Go back 100 years later, it's still there intact. It can be woven. Very versatile. You break down, separate the fibres, and you can start putting them into clothing. Fire blankets, racing drivers' suits. Used to have asbestos fibres in them. Plentiful and readily available. It occurs in the ground. We don't have to manufacture it, just dig it up. Cheap. Dirt cheap, if you will. We dig it up. How much? So how much do we need to take on board before you get a disease? One. In theory, one fibre. But don't know. We do know, more asbestos fibres you breathe in, the greater the risk to your health. Smokers, again, you're more at risk. So, one fibre. Right. Has anyone seen them remove any asbestos? These contracts. He talks about the different levels of training. 3 levels. Right. The first one, he says, this is your bog standards asbestos awareness training. If your company is sending you into an old building, you should have asbestos awareness training because it gives you a heads up and awareness, exactly that, of where it should be. Okay? It's not for you to then go, right, I can see it there, get the lump hammer, we'll get rid of it. Okay? The next one up is for people that aren't really getting rid of the dangerous stuff, non-notifiable, non-licensed work. Okay, they might be working with it, but they've got specialist training. They're not going to mess about with it. The highest level is for these licensed contractors, the ones that charge fortunes to come in and get rid of it. And the reason they charge fortunes is to set up as a company, it costs, all their equipment costs, the disposal of it costs an absolute fortune. And if you get a company that's coming around and going, yeah, I'll get rid of that for you, 800 quid, right? They are a Mickey Mouse company, you'll probably find all your waste is down a country lane somewhere. Because they have to pay to dispose of it. That's why it costs to get rid of it. It's not what they do. Bury it.
They do bury it. Bury it really deep. So
I don't know deep. I don't know exactly how far they're down.
No, they wrap it with certain protection before they put in the ground.
What now? Okay. No idea. There's a few sites in the UK. There used to only be 3, but there's more and more. I can only assume that it's 3 sites are getting full. Yeah. So there's only limited space, isn't there? Yeah. I did read somewhere that they're trying to do something regarding treating it first before they can break it down and hopefully incinerate it. If that doesn't work, what happens? They break down fibres, put it into a chimney. If it doesn't burn, it's just sending it all over the atmosphere, isn't it? So I dare say there's going to be strict testing. Right, don't worry too much about these regulations. What was I going to tell you about it? Yeah, right, sorry. These licensed contractors. These licensed contractors. There's different types of asbestos. There's, like I said, it's in 3,000, a minimum 3,000 different materials. Okay. These people will come in and basically say, well, that's what I'm going to tell you what I've got to think. You've seen them remove it, they come in and they basically seal. They're specialist trained people. They've got to jump through loads of hoops with HSE to be granted a license to remove asbestos. Okay. Right, and when they come to remove it, under strict conditions, if you spot it in the workplace or your workers are on asbestos awareness, they tell you. You say, stop what you're doing, get out of Dodge, don't let anyone else go near it. You then go into that room to tell the managers. They get somebody in, a specialist, and they go, yeah, and like I said in the video, if it's in a vulnerable location, i.e. it's going to be disturbed, you have to get rid of it. And that's when they go, oh, bugger. Because if you have to get rid of any asbestos with a licensed contractor, they have then got to notify the HSC in a minimum of 14 days. Which means, ultimately, your job can just stop for 14 days and you can't do anything. Right? So, these people come in, these licensed contractors, and they seal the whole area off. And they've got these great big filters about a metre square. Alright? They suck the air out, create what's called negative pressure. Okay. And they go in and they remove it under these strict conditions. What they don't tell you is, yeah, it's all done. They remove it, and what they say is, our filters are now telling us it's down to minimum levels or acceptable levels. Right? They might say things like there's 20,000 fibres per metre squared in these filters. Right? They'll never guarantee it's gone because they're microscopic. Now, to give you, you might think that's a lot. Right? And the top of that pen is probably about 10,000 fibres. Okay, so in a metre squared, 20,000 fibres, I'm not exactly entirely sure what the level is, okay, but it's something along those lines. There's few fibres in this vacuum, in this filter. So, highly trained people that need to get rid of it. Find it there, the corrugated roofing. Insulating boards, lightning round pipes. You know where else you can get it? Artex, decorative plasters, old fuse carriers, yeah.
Riser cupboards.
Riser cupboards,
Hot water
tanks,
behind the radiators.
rads, gaskets round pipes, floors, yeah, flooring tiles, ceiling tiles. Yeah. Do you remember at school when you had the tiles that had holes in? Asbestos tiles, ceiling tiles.
You know, you mentioned for removal, getting specialist firm. Is that for all forms? So, say if they're solid asbestos panels, will there be less airborne?
Well, like if it's solid, it's not an issue. Okay. Mike, I forget his name, the head of the Citb, he said there. So, if it's not in a vulnerable location and it's intact, okay, what you need to do then is the owner of the commercial building has to then update an asbestos register. If you have a commercial building, you should have an asbestos register.
Yeah.
Okay? So you update it to say it's there, but you would have it what we call encapsulated and identified. If it is not going to be removed and it's not in a vulnerable location, what that means is it's going to get damaged and fibres released.
Yeah, I know the best approach is to not disturb it and to just work around. But in some cases where the scope of work includes removing them to upgrade, do you need a specialist firm then, even if they're not disturbed?
Whatever form of it is, it has to be removed.
If you're going to remove anything, okay, it's got to be the trained people that are doing it. Okay. Now, depending on the nature of the asbestos and how much percentage of the asbestos it's got in a product, it's different types of work. Like you said there, it could be licensed work where they are just coming and getting rid of the dangerous stuff. It could be non-licensed work that's notifiable. There's lots of different categories. Right. Bottom line is, if you think it's asbestos, get a firm in to have a look at it and they will say, no, you're alright with that. If you're not going to disturb it, we'll just put a board over it, we'll put the little A sticker over it, and you need to update your asbestos register if you own that building, or if the client would update it. If it's going to be removed in any way, shape or form because it's in a vulnerable location, then they'll get rid of it, the trained people. It's going to be removed full stop. You'll have, well not necessarily, it all depends on what you do with it. But you can have a couple of surveys done by these companies. One's called a management survey. That is where they'll come in and look at it and go, yeah, it's asbestos. Okay. It might even be this level 2 trained where they take scrapings of it and test to find out exactly what type it is. because you can have there's some that are worse than others, believe it or not. They're all crap, right? They all kill you, right? And there's some materials that are 100% asbestos, some that are as low as, like Artex, as low as 3% asbestos. Okay? If it's going to be the dangerous stuff that needs removing, okay, you then go on to a refurbishment and demolition survey. By virtue of those two words, that implies you are going to smash the granny out of something. Refurbishment and demolition. So you are going to be releasing fibres. So then you need to get the specialists in. That is licensed work where they have to be removing it. Well, they remove it depending what it is. They can sometimes just concrete over it. There's a guy a few weeks back, director of an asbestos removal firm, and he said, I can't remember this setup. It was a big factory, and this guy had found a pipe, an old asbestos pipe. And he said, you can't use this machine until this is protected apparently, or removed. And he said, can you remove it? And he went, we can't do anything for a couple of weeks. He said, I could concrete it in, just so you can't get anyone near it, and then we'll update the register, etc. And he went, yeah, if you can do that, in like a trench. So, the machine he was talking about, there's something with
Books?
Is there anyone behind the black screens over there? That's it, mate. Well, they're probably in at some point or other, but I couldn't tell you when. Yeah, this machine did something with laundry, industrial laundry. You throw all the bed sheets in at one end, it washes it, dries it, presses it, bags it, and it comes out the other. It's about the length of 2 double-decker buses. Right? This guy had got about 8 machines in this factory. And he said, this has been out of action for like 4 days since we found this pipe. It's costing him something like 30 grand a day. It's been out. And he got about 8 of these machines in the factory. Well, it must have been absolutely minted. Okay. Now, from this director's point of view, he said, can you concrete it in there? He went, yeah, when can you do it? Oh, a couple of weeks. He went, how much? And he went, 20 grand. And he went, if you do it tomorrow, I'll give you 30. He went, oh, yeah, all right then.
Money talks.
Yeah, machines costing it. That machine was making him 30 grand a day, and he'd already been out of action for 3 days. Plus, he must have customers all over London, big hotels with all the laundry and everything. I have heard other stories of these. You get these management surveys where they come out and take samples. Yeah, I've heard other stories of some companies come out and they always carry a bag of the dangerous stuff. Right? Take samples and then show them the bag and go, that's the really bad stuff, you're going to have to take the wall out. £20,000 please. They're all kinds of stuff. Anyway, there's a place in one of the guy I know removes it, and he said you wouldn't believe where it is. He went to one of these fantastic old buildings in London, and he said, oh brilliant, some wood paneling, we'll have them. And his boss went, you can't have them, that's what we're here to remove. He said, the team before had got them and stacked them ready for disposal. He went, what do you mean it's wood paneling? But it's not, it's asbestos that had been pressed and then stained to look like wood. So you wouldn't have, unless someone had gone, that's asbestos, you wouldn't have known.
We used to do the old fire doors as well.
Okay.
We were removing the doors in the hospital, and it was every single door was labelled as asbestos.
Asbestos. Because
Every
just
single
protection from heat. So anyway, you want protection from heat. You bang asbestos because it was a great material. It's just got one drawback. That one drawback is it kills you. So it's a hell of a drawback. It's a shame, really. It's a fantastic material. Right. So look at what book says. So pretty much, listen, if you've got asbestos in the workplace, stop what you're doing, get it checked out, keep your people safe, keep yourself safe. If it's going to be left, if it's intact, then protect in a vulnerable location, make sure that the registers are updated and everybody knows about it. Okay? If it's got to be removed, you've got to get people to remove it. Right, asbestos related diseases on 158. Remember them, especially mesothelioma.
In the quiz. I said it might come up in the quiz.
Well, anything in this book might come up on the quiz, to be fair. Right, there is the regulations surrounding asbestos are vast. Okay? Even some of the directors I speak to go, tell me about this, and go, no, not really. They don't even know them inside out. So, picking the bones out of it, if you look at page 161, basically what they say is you have to have a minimum of the asbestos awareness training. Okay? Depending on what you're having done with it, you have different levels of training. Okay? If you're removing it, it's got to be the highest level of training. Right, on the right hand side, 161, control of asbestos rates, direct the way in which asbestos must be handled, removed and disposed of. The following points are a summary of the legislation. They prohibit most work with asbestos except by holders of licences issued by the HSE. Certain non-licensed work must be notified to the relevant enforcing authority. Next one, allows some work to be carried out by unlicensed contractors, providing certain time limitations are adhered to, and or if the work only involves certain materials that contain asbestos, providing the requirements of the regulations are complied with. Okay. So certain non-licensed contractors can work with it depending on the type of asbestos and the material and if it's intact. For example, removal of the corrugated sheets. If they're intact, you can remove it. You don't need the specialist contractor to get rid of it. But the people that are doing it, even though it's non-licensed work, must still have a particular level of training to do it. You used to be able to get rid of them and just take them down to council. The council used to come around, put wraps around it and just remove it for you. You know the old outbuildings, old garages, where you have the asbestos panels and then the corrugated sheets? Council years ago, and I'm talking like 90s, early 2000s, council would come round, dismantle it, put wraps around it and remove it. Now, obviously, because of that, they used to then say, you go to the tip and then go, yeah, here's a wrap. Do it yourself. Right. And people are like, well, asbestos. No, I don't think so. If you turn over the page, it's quite important, the bold bit. If the worker disturbs an unknown substance that could be asbestos or could contain asbestos, they must stop work immediately and warn others to keep out of an area and then come and inform you or a manager. Now, obviously, if you are exposing workers to asbestos, that is a massive health hazard. You've still got to put in health surveillance. Now, unbelievably, the health surveillance for people removing asbestos, they get a lung function test once every 3 years. I'd want it more often, to be fair. If I worked in it, you earn buckets, I'd probably pay for it doing like every 6 months. Once every 3 years. It used to be once every 2 years, and a guy told me last year, no, they've just changed it. Once every 3 years now. Right. Following on from that, it brings us on to chapter 13. Okay. Dust and fumes or respiratory hazards. So if you look at 168, the introduction, respiratory hazards are substances in the air, such as dust, fumes, gases or vapours, that can be inhaled by workers and lead to a range of illnesses and diseases. 168 at the top, so. Got it? Page 168.
168. Yeah.
Right, so what can we say generally about respiratory hazards? They are all dangerous. Yeah. When workers are exposed to them, it presents a danger to all workers. Whether it be dust, fumes, okay, gases, vapours, mists. Okay. Doesn't matter what respiratory hazard it is, it's called a hazard for a reason. From yesterday, what's a hazard? Anything that's got the potential to cause harm. So any respiratory hazard is a risk to the workers. Right, you can have a look at some of the figures. At the ticks there. Each year, many workers suffer with breathing or lung problems due to work. HSE estimates around 450 people every year are dying as a result of past exposure to silica dust, which can lead to Silicosis. That's a bit like asbestosis, but it's by solid dust particles or silica dust particles as opposed to asbestos fibres. Some respiratory hazards can also cause sensitization. Do you remember what that was from yesterday? No, not only skin, but generally we did mention skin with dermatitis. Do you remember what sensitizing was from yesterday?
Yeah.
You become sensitive or it brings about allergic reactions. Okay. Right, some of the conditions. COPD, you ever heard of this? Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Chronic meaning long time for it to get you. Obstructive, it starts blocking the airways. It obstructs the airways deep in the lungs. Pulmonary, just relative to the lungs. Follow it on, you can get asthma. Occupational asthma is caused by exposure to respiratory sensitizers. One of them is softwood dust. Was it chippy?
Oh, yeah. Is it softwood?
Softwood dust. Do you know what hardwood dust causes? Nasal cancer. Cancer of the nose.
Oopsie.
That's new.
Okay. Do you still work with MDF?
Unfortunately, but yeah, we make sure it's.
Go on, make
got
sure
the
what?
hoovers and
Make sure
dust
no one
mask,
sees you
no.
cutting it.
No, we make sure the hoovers are on and the dust mask, whether you want it or not, it's got to be on, yeah.
I mean, we still use MDF. It's not banned. Some people think it's banned.
It's banned in Germany though,
Germany, is it?
and America.
It's not banned in America.
Huh?
I'll tell you why. There used to be a guy that teaches next door, ex-army, very regimented, very anal. He even contacted the governing body in America to confirm whether it had or not, and they said it's not banned, but it's cut under strict conditions in the USA.
Okay.
Although, I don't know, Trump might overturn it and just
use it.
put it in schools and everywhere.
Yeah.
Put it in woodwork classes.
Put in the Mexican wall.
So, MDF, medium density fibreboard. Well, we just said so. Softwood dust causes asthma. Hardwood dust can cause nasal cancer. What MDF is, this medium density fibreboard, it's all the offcuts, it's all the crap from both. Then it's squashed together using a really poisonous glue. So if you cut it, you release the softwood dust particles, the hardwood dust particles, and the chemicals that make up this horrible glue.
So what is MDF?
Possibly anything. Breathing cancers, asthma. It's not great to be around. And you can still go on sites today and see people cutting it up, dust all over the place. You see some more bloke there cutting it up, you know, making shuttering and crap like that all day long. Working there. Right. It then goes on about different types of respiratory hazards, as in dust, fumes, etc. Vapours, mists and aerosols, gases. They're all harmful. That's what I call hazards. Yeah, HSE, they have been for about the last 12 months now, really hot on silica dust. The HSE are quite good at promoting how they punish people when they don't do what they've been instructed. But they're also quite fair. Early last year, they advertised what they're going to specialise in. We'll make sure health and safety is looked after, but we're concentrating more so on things like working at height, silica dust. 4 or 5 things. Every quarter they will say, we're particularly concerned about this. So if we come out to the workplace, make sure health and safety is on point, but strictly look after these points. And just before Christmas they published a picture of, they went to do a random visit on site, and the first thing they saw when they walked through the gates was a bloke cutting concrete blocks with a saw, no mask on, cloud of dust all over the place. The inspector got his phone out, click, right, and they published that photograph. 40 grand fine the company got. But Just said, don't do it, I'm going to come round and make sure you don't do it. If you've got your workers going, don't do that today, fellas, make sure you do this. You go around and you see them not doing it, what are you going to do? Yeah. Give them a major penalty. That's what the HSE do. They'll give you fair warning. If they give you a warning and you don't do it, you're an idiot, aren't you? You don't know, do you?
Well, if you weren't tracked properly,
If it's culture of the site, yeah, some companies actually factor in money for fines because they get the job done quicker, right, and probably make more money and pay out a few little fines by just taking shortcuts if they get caught. Chance it, I mean, I don't want it to be out of turn, but what's the chance of you getting caught? HSE have only got so many people. Right. There's 2.6 million people employed in construction in the UK. Majority of something like 90% of companies have got 10 or less people. So that is thousands of companies. How are the HSE going to, unless you get an accident, unless you get a disgruntled employee, unless you get someone see something that's right and report it. And years ago, before the HSE lost a lot of money, you could ring them up and go, this is happening, and go, right, reactive. Go out and have a look the same day. Now you have to fill a contact form in. Someone will have a look at it. It might be 3 or 4 days before they actually get out to have a look at it, and then situations change and they miss it. I'm not saying get away with it. What I'm saying is the chances of the HSE finding things somewhat reduced. Right. Noise and vibration. What is noise? Well, strange question. This. What is noise? Waste product. A waste product. 178.
Level of sound.
Level of sound.
created, it's like created by something else. It doesn't just happen to sound, it's something else has made that sound happen.
Right. Bad sound. I like that. Bad sound. Alright. In order to describe as unwanted sound. Sound is simply vibrations through the air that these fantastic things pick up on and translate into what we interpret as sounds. Okay. But noise is described as unwanted or bad sound. Right. So, exposure to this, unwanted sound. What's going to happen ultimately if you're continuously exposed to noise?
You're deaf.
You're deaf.
Damage your hearing.
Or damage your hearing. Well, it depends on the exposure. Okay? If you can have short-term exposure, you can have long-term exposure. You can have loud levels of noise, you can have low level, but it's there for long periods of time. Okay? So, it doesn't matter which, it's going to affect your hearing sooner or later. Okay? I guarantee now, from where I've worked, I'll sit there and my lad will be watching TV and I'll go, give us the whizzy, turn it up a bit. And the missus will come in and go, not loud enough for you. And I'll go, what? 15, 20 years ago, I might have been listening to it on much lower volume. I might have had, not exactly a misspent youth, I might have been in clubs and everything with my head next to the speakers and boom, boom. And you come out of a club, alright? Club, come out of a discotheque, as it was. You lot are all like raving and all that now, aren't you? So, yeah, so you come away from that, you've got that in your ear, and if you do that constantly, in your teens, in your 20s, you're like, yeah, it's alright this, but that's already started having an effect, so when you get to like 30s, it's a bit like when you first go out, it's all exciting, you go into the pub and everything. Yeah, you're talking to your mates, you can hear everything. Music's on, people talking, I've heard what they're saying. Right? You can hear the bar staff over everything. Get to late 30s, right? I've noticed this myself. You go into a pub, Right, you're talking to your mate, someone else comes in, puts the telly on, you go, you turn that crap off, I'm trying to have a conversation, and you can't hear the conversation properly, because cumulative effect has kind of started damaging these. Now it can damage it to an extent where, alright, it's difficult to hear things, but as it progressively gets worse, you start getting buzzing or ringing in the ears. Do you know what that's called? Tinnitus. Yeah. Tinnitus. And that's the sign that it's already damaged beyond repair. Okay? Ultimately, it can be whether exposure to a one-off noise, blow your eardrums, you go deaf, or your hearing gets so bad, you will lose it eventually. Right. So, how do we know it's noisy around outside? Not a silly question. How do we know it's noisy? You can hear it. Alright. Well, you can hear noise, but you might not be able to hear other people. Right. Has anyone ever heard of a 2 metre or a 1 metre rule? Yeah?
Yeah.
Right. 2 metres away? Ish? Right. Me and Greg can't hear each other at 2 metres. We've got to raise our voices. Yeah? It's noisy. Metre away, still got to raise our voices to be heard. That's even louder, much louder, because the distance is half. Right. So if you think it's noisy in the workplace, what do you think you're going to do?
Try and remove it.
Well, what you want to first do is find out the level of noise. Okay. Or, instead of doing that, what we might do is preempt that the work on site is going to be noisy. We might do some proactive work. Okay. CDM might say, yeah, it's going to be really noisy. Establish noise monitors around the place. So we anticipate the noise level is going to be high. We might get the monitors in first, even before the work starts. Right. That's because control of noise at work regulations say if the noise hits particular levels, an employee's got to act. And these are the levels what you want to be aware of. Okay. Right. These noise monitors, they measure the average noise. It's only fair. It's no good just having the loudest noise. Average noise and the loudest one-off noise throughout the day. So they normally pick up on an 8-hour period. And bear in mind, start of the day, a bit quiet, noise picks up, then you get morning break, nothing. Up again, then you get lunchtime, nothing. So it picks up the average. It'll also pick up on the loudest one-off noise. Right. If the average noise level exceeds 80 decibels, you've just exceeded the lower level. The equivalent loudest noise, 135. Upper level, 85, or 137 for the loudest. Then you get a max. $87 or 140. Right. So what the control of noise at work regulations say is if you exceed this, where you're at this. I'll start throwing my penises on the board. Yeah. So, if it exceeds 80 decibels or the loudest one-off noise is above that, 135, then what you've got to do is offer hearing protection. When it's asked, hearing protection, or if people come in and go, it's noisy, you can have some hearing protection. If you're above that, you've got to offer it. If it reaches the upper limit, you've then got to enforce that it's worn. Okay, so not only have you offered it, you enforce that people are wearing it. Okay. How can we enforce people wear hearing protection?
Provide it.
Provide it, but force it's worn.
Go around checking, I suppose.
Well, physically you can, but you can't do it all the time, all day, can you? What colour sign, George? Red?
Blue.
Blue. Blue is mandatory. A blue ear defenders must be worn. What you do is you establish a hearing zone. If the noise was in this room, any entry point to this room, we have the blue mandatory sign on there saying ear defenders must be worn before entering this area. Okay? Different entry and exit points, you have the signs there. Therefore, you've created this hearing zone, an area where the noise has exceeded this. And you are doing that, enforcing that hearing protection is being worn. Okay? You can back it up with walking round. With like, ear defenders on. Right. If it exceeds the max, what you've got to do is reduce it. I think it gives you some values in the book. I think a jet plane operates at about 130 decibels. Okay, so it's going to be a loud one-off. Okay. Some tools operate, the average tools, anywhere between sort of 90 decibels to about 100 decibels, maybe slightly over, but you're not using it constantly. Okay. You stop every so often. So it's picking up on the average noise, or the loudest noise. Lower level, here's some area protection. Upper level, now put it on please. This one, you've got to start reducing the noise. How can we reduce the noise? Sorry, slowly.
Protection.
Not sure I'm talking slowly. Right, it's going to reduce the noise because I know what you're saying, but if I can't hear great there's noise going on, right, us talking slowly isn't going to reduce the noise that's stopping us being heard. Okay, so if it's a noisy site, how can we reduce it? This is what you want to look at. Have a look at the source, i.e., where's the noise coming from? Then have a look at the path. Then have a look at the receiver. So, what we're going to do with the machines that are causing all the noise?
Sound barriers.
Is that the source or is that the path?
Are they working correctly?
Alright. What's the main way of controlling risk?
The risk assessment.
Well, we did it yesterday. Yeah, you do your risk assessment. What's the way of controlling it? How do we control it?
Communications.
Medicine.
No, you do all that, but what's the control measures we put in place? What's the most effective way of controlling it?
Removing it.
Get rid of it. Eliminate it. Right? Well, so let's eliminate the noise. Get rid of that machine. It's too noisy. Get rid of it. Cost £500,000 that night. I get rid of it. Let's get another one. Let's replace it.
Cost.
Reasonably practicable? No, not really. So, well, why is it causing so much noise? It's not working properly. It's been serviced? No, never. I've had it 10 years. Well, why the hell is it not being serviced? Get bits on it repaired that aren't working properly. Can we do the work somewhere else, move it around?
Has that not normally been taken into account before the works are even started?
No, it's just I'm just using it as an example. Right. Like I said, proactive monitoring is putting things in place. Going back to yesterday, the proactive and reactive, right? You know when we were doing the plan, do, check, act, and proactive, reactive. Proactive, site manager sets up these hearing monitors, these noise monitors. Yeah. He's recording the noise every day, yeah, making sure it's not exceeding the levels. Great, proactive. Reactive, he hasn't put them in place. 6 people come and go, sorry boss, I've got a buzzing or ringing in my ears, I think my ears are gone. Now he's got 6 cases of hearing damage. That's after things have happened. That's the difference. Right. You're quite right then, you would preempt all this, well you would hope, right, because CDM says they will plan the job, they will plan for health and safety, okay, they will put things in place to minimise it. Okay. Doesn't always work though. Yeah. We'll get a tool in, it won't be noisy this. We've got figures for this tool and it doesn't exceed this. All of a sudden you start using it and you go, whoa, what's up with that tool? That's noisy. Well, it said it's been inspected. No, might not be. Okay. So, look at the tool. Is it the right one for the job? Okay. Is it, for example, if you're drilling, is it the right drill bit? Is it the right way of drilling? Okay. Or the blade on the blocks yesterday, is it the right blade for concrete? So, then we can look at the path. Barriers around it, sound barriers, bafflers. And then we can look at the individuals. Right, I think it follows on from there, and it goes, they normally go hand in hand. Does it go straight to vibration, next chapter?
Yeah, page 182.
Right. So we spoke about this earlier, a couple of you spoke, didn't you? Yeah. Yeah. Nice talk this morning, saved me a lot of work.
Pleasure, Kieran.
Two extra marks. Right. So, like I said this morning, you can get whole body vibration. Quite rare these days. More commonly, and you get in a lot of cases of this, you can get hand-arm vibration syndrome. That is where we feel the vibrations physically through the hands, through holding vibrating tools. Okay? And like you picked up on correctly this morning, you hold them loosely or lightly. You want it to get the job done, right? But you don't want to be what we call white knuckling. You don't. A lot of people tend to go, it's vibrating and grip as tight as you can. The tighter you grip it, the more you feel the vibration through your hands. Okay? So it's worse. Worse when your hands are cold and wet. Worse if you're a smoker, which you're already compromising your circulatory system. It's going to blow up. Just stand around there. Just in case it blows. Right. So, when these machines get delivered, when these tools get delivered, what do they come? Certificates, yeah, what else? Information. What type of information? Instructions that will also include the value or the rate of vibration. Anyone ever looked at this? No. We just grab hold of it and use it, don't we? Right. You're supervisors now. You've got to look after people. Right. So you need to be aware of it. If the boss says to you, them in there say, do us a favour, yeah? Go out there, do a quick risk assessment on all the vibrating tools. You've now got to find this information out. What are you looking at? You want to know trigger time. You know what trigger time is? Right. Different machines vibrate at different levels of vibration. Okay. So you get a vibration level. You have trigger time. Vibrate at this level. Trigger time is the amount you can use it in one period before you start suffering the effects, or you are exposing yourself to the possible effects of hand-arm vibration. So, because it vibrates at a particular level, there's some impact drivers that they'll tell you, this vibrates at a very high level, don't use it constantly for any more than 8 minutes. If you use it for more than 8 minutes, you're at risk of damaging your hands through hand-arm vibration syndrome. It will then tell you a rest period. So let's say this tool, very high vibration level, the impact driver, 8 minutes. Rest period, let's say 12 minutes. Okay. It might also say total time, do not use for more than 3 hours in any one day, a cumulative time. As an example. So what a lot of firms now are doing is they are monitoring the amount of vibration that each worker is exposed to. It looks like they're doing that. put it that way. But at the end of the day, they just go, right, great, probably, what's the limit? 4 hours? Yeah, he did 3 hours 55 on that one. Then did about 3 hours 52. Just come in and pay for it. Monitor it properly. It's always a good idea as well when you look at inspection of tools. Get someone in periodically, I'm talking like this every year, 18 months, check the tools and still vibrating to the level the manufacturer set. If you're using them a lot, sometimes they can start vibrating at higher levels. If they're vibrating at higher levels, it might mean that this is going to be shorter. It might mean that this is going to be longer. So what you do is, or what they'll do, or they might ask you to do, is you take this information that you get with the tool and you put that into your RAMs. So your risk assessment has a vibration. Okay? Who's going to be harmed and how? All the people using it. Alright? You put this risk on it. How are we going to control it? Alright, well, we've got information. We're not going to use it for any more than 8 minutes constantly. When we do, we're going to have 12 minutes rest. We're going to make sure, we're going to monitor it, and we're not going to use it for more than 3 hours in any one day. Then you might be alright. It should be alright if you're sticking to the guidelines. When you don't stick to the guidelines and you expose yourself to it, this is what it does to you. Okay? It damages the blood vessels, it damages the nerves, it damages soft tissues. Damages the bones. So, as a result of all this, you get pale fingertips, sometimes called vibration white finger, or blanching. Where you put like vegetables in hot water quickly. Was it then hot water and then straight into cold? Anyway. So fingertips go white. Doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Indian, Asian, whatever. You lose colour in the fingertips. You get pain in the fingertips. Most of the blood, it's a bit like frostbite. If you damage blood vessels, blood won't get back through. That body part is no longer getting blood. You will get pain. You will start getting tingling, pins and needles. You will start getting numbness, so you won't feel touching it. You will lose grip strength. You will then lose manual dexterity. Do you know what that is? Right, dexterity is being able to coordinate, right, small movements. So, not that I'd ever do it, but, well, unless I'm wearing a tie. Right. If you were trying to manipulate your button to close the button like so, you wouldn't be able to do it. Once you lose your dexterity, you'd probably have difficulty in like picking up, you click on small objects or the pen lid, you wouldn't be able to pick them up because you can't coordinate the fingers with strength. Okay? So, picture of, that's your white finger. You seen anybody with this? That's what it can end up like. Okay? So, what is this bit there? Dead. That's all it is, just dead tissue. So this is someone that's obviously exposed himself to it quite a lot. Can you see, if you look closely, that's the funny colour, that's changing, that's changing. What's been happening to them fingers? Oh, you probably have to, well, I've got a photograph of it now, so he's obviously getting looked after. He's probably going to have them cut off. I couldn't tell you if he's going to lose, well, if he lost the others. Right, there's obviously an issue there, it's a change of colour. Okay. Now, how can you get to that level? Well, possibly there hasn't been a risk assessment done on it. It might be a case of, well, faulty tool. Well, a faulty tool, but it might be a case of he doesn't know anything about vibration. If he does, he knows that if he gets under our vibration syndrome, he can't work with that tool anymore. He might not tell you. So it might be down to you as supervisors to be able to spot it. If you see people kind of doing this a lot, it's probably because they've not got any feeling in their hands. And if you know they're using vibrating tools, so look it down a minute. Poor old sod, I mean it looks old enough. Poor old sod might be like, I've still got to keep working, I'm not going to tell anyone. Because then they're going to take me off the tools. If I'm not on the tools, I can't work. I'm only guessing. But I can imagine it's
or maybe
possible.
I don't know, this can go longer and go home early.
Yeah, maybe he's doing it on his own. And then, oh, look at that. I mean, it's quite old. It might be the generation that goes, just a little scratch. Let's carry on. Oh, so his fingers drop off. Yeah. It might be that generation. Not like today's generation. So, ultimately, that's what can happen. That's why it's important that you look after it. There's an area down in Kent called Thanet, a council area called Thanet. Thanet Council, this house is on the list of occupational diseases. So if you get a case of this, you must report it under RIDDOR to the HSE. Okay. And the Thanet Council had to report 17 cases in one hit, for their gardeners. No one, or the person that was doing the risk assessments, didn't think that industrial lawnmowers, strimmers, hedge trimmers, leaf blowers, chainsaws, they didn't think they vibrated, so they didn't have it down as a hazard. Because they didn't have it down as a hazard, there was no risks evaluated, there was no control measures, there was no information or instruction or education given to the workers about what habs is or what the symptoms are or what to do if you start feeling them. There was no way of reporting it, there was no health surveillance in place, just nothing done about it. And they got fined, I think, 400k. So, and then if they're getting fined 400k, what are the 17 workers going to do? They'll go straight to civil court and they'll put claim in, depending to what extent they've had their house damaged, because the employer's not looked after them under this. If you were going to get any questions about it, it could be, if you walk around the workplace, I'm sure yourself, you could identify certain tools that may cause this. What type of tools cause this?
Grinder.
Together, collectively.
Electric.
Oh, vibrating tools. Okay. You could look at activities around the workplace, couldn't you? And go, oh, well, that activity requires a vibrating tool. Let me see if vibration's covered under the risk assessment. Okay. So you can identify activities, you can identify tools that might cause it. Yeah? I'll say any more than that. Right, next one then. Manual handling. A couple of you did manual handling this morning, didn't you? Yeah. You have to take it off. Yeah. That one alright? Nice. Yeah, that's alright. That's alright. You sure you're working in, you alright working in construction? Never see anything like that. Okay, right, manual handling. What did we say it was this morning? Anything that involves moving. Right. Individual, yeah. Transporting or supporting of a load by hand or bodily force. Right, where you're walking. Lifting, lowering. If I lift and move around, I am carrying. I can do all that by hand. Because I'm hench. No, because it's light. Yeah. Supposing it's too light, too heavy. Right. I've then got to get behind it with my body and use my body to move it now. Yeah, so a push or in front and pull or drag. Okay. Right. All those activities done repeatedly, incorrectly, start having a problem. What do they affect in the body? Back. Back predominantly, yeah? Shoulders. Consider the shoulders, what else? Joints. Joints, neck, muscles, knees. All the body can't really, but predominantly it hurts the back. Right, I'm going to draw the back for you in simple form. Right. That's the spine. These are vertebrae. What are these? Discs. What do the discs do?
Absorb the shock.
Shock absorbers. What else? Allow movement. Yeah, provide a big area for movement. All right, and they stop any friction in between bones. Right. What is acting down on the body all the time we're standing up or sitting there?
Gravity.
Gravity. Yeah, weight as well, but through gravity. Right. So constantly, while we're upright, seated or walking around, standing up, right, gravity is pushing down. Right, it's trying to compress this. So it's fair to say, believe it or not, you are taller in the morning than you are of an evening. I'm not saying that you are. Millimetres if that. Okay? And when you lie down and gravity is not acting down through your back, it relaxes when you do that. Okay? Fraction. What it shows is there's continuous forces acting down on the back. This is without us even doing any work. Right. Why is it important to look after this? What runs through the middle of it? Spinal cord. Right. Main part of the nervous system. Right. George, get ready. Catch. Right back. What told me to do that? Brain sending messages. Right. I'll do another drawing. You don't know whether it used to be me, this it might even be Bart. That's me. In there, there's a massive northern brain. As opposed to southerners, it's a bit like that. Right, you take this brain, right, you get this spinal cord that comes off it, runs all the way through this, yeah. Everywhere you have a vertebra, you have holes in the side where this splits. 33 pairs of these nerves come out. So you've got the cord running through it and you get the nerves coming out. And then they split, a bit like blood vessels, roots of a tree. They go out and spread out throughout the body. Okay? That's your nervous system. Me sending it to George like that, I can see he's caught it. That's information coming back. Him throwing it back to me, I can see it, control it, and feel it caught there. So it's a two-way messaging system, really, in short. You damage any of it, it can be very minor, it can be very short term, it can be long term, it can be permanent. Okay. But it's important to look after it. Right. So even before we do anything at work, what we've got is this gravity acting through it, putting wear and tear on the back, yeah? What we do on top of that then, like complete idiots, is start putting even more stress through the back. How do we put stress through the back? What are your bottom here? Right. What? Lifting things repeatedly, lifting things incorrectly, or lowering things, or carrying things, or dragging, pulling, pushing, doing it incorrectly but repeatedly. Okay? And it's these movements that start adding to the stressors through the back which result in these conditions known as musculoskeletal disorders, predominantly to the back, but other parts of the body as well. So, don't quote me on the figures, I can't remember these. Gravity going through the body, yeah, let's say a force of 1. I then pick a load up, a weight, right, and hold it close in. Let's say the force is now 2, yeah, because there's now more force going down. I then hold it away because I go, oh, there's your bottle. Right, I hold it away from my body. It's gone up to a force of 5 going through the back. I then go, there you are, I bend. I then go, oh no, it's not yours, it's Greg's. So I twist at the same time. The force has gone from maybe 1 to 2 to 5 to 10 to 20 times the force going through the back. When you combine all these movements, when you combine all those movements, you're increasing stresses massively through the back. We don't just do it once, so do it. We repeatedly do it. Over and over again, putting massive forces through the back. So, it results in people being off work for a long time, it results in conditions which can have an effect on people long term, even though physically they recover. Anyone hurt their back?
I got disc hernia, L5, L4.
You've got
Disc hernia,
hernia. Yeah. Right, so it's slip disc we call it.
Yeah.
And what you've got with a slip disc, blind you with a bit of science. Right, so that's your disc sitting in between the vertebrae. Okay. What happens is, have you had soft mints? Not really nice mints, yeah? Really hard on the outer side, but then inside it's like a paste. That's what these are like. Okay. And when you have repeated movement like that, if you picture the discs like that, if I bend over to that side, what happens to the discs on this side? Squished. What about this side? Opened up. If I carried on doing that, yeah, eventually this side might burst. Yeah, we call it a prolapse disc, but commonly people call it a slip disc because they think it slips. It's not exactly slipped, although it can. What's happening is the inside, if it cracks, the inside leaks out and can start pushing against nerves. Okay. Right, you can have surgery, you can have physio. Sometimes it might be right on its own accord. But when you've hurt your back, what you commonly get then is people going, yeah, I'm alright, I feel well, can you do us a favour, can you lift that? And you go, well, yeah, but then inside you're thinking, is my back alright? Do you get that now?
The first,
Or do you just not lift?
I got it from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But the first year was very hard to train my brain
Yeah, to do
how
it.
to do it.
Yeah.
But after that, everything is fine.
You're alright.
Now I just feel like a little numbering on the leg,
Okay.
but otherwise everything is fine.
You're alright. So, can have long-term effects. So, it costs so many hundreds of millions each year. This. So, the government brought out these regulations, okay? Manual handling regulations. First thing we've got to do, right? Avoid manual handling. How do we avoid manual handling?
Not doing it.
Use the machinery?
Yeah, using the machinery as possible.
Not doing it.
Get someone else to do it.
Alright, yeah, get someone else to do it. You're going to make a great
Great
supervisor.
Stop his shoulders with you.
Right, avoid manual handling. How? Use machines. What we've been saying all along, machines don't create any risk. No risk to humans if machines are lifted. We are not lifting manually by hand or body. So, a company's first, or what you should be doing at work is the first thought when you look at risk assessments and you go, oh, it's manual handling there, well, what's the first thing we should be thinking? Can we avoid it? Have we got any machines that can do that lifting? Always commonly tested on things like that. Not always possible, so if we can't avoid it, what are we going to do? Assess. What are we assessing? Well, we're assessing factors that are going to increase the risk. Right, come on Greg, I think you did it this morning, didn't you? Did you do manual handling this morning? Yeah. So what factors are we going to look at? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's look at it a different way. We're going to ask questions this morning. Alex, do us a favour. Yep. If I said, look, you see how shoddy these like that, I'm going to get some benefit out of it. They do pay you, but I'm going to get some more benefit, like the TV. Or I can get rid of it for another 50 quid. Can you put that back in the car for me? What are you thinking?
Money not enough.
What are you thinking?
Not 50 quid.
When it comes to what? It's heavy. Looks heavy. Alright. That no one said thief. No one's called me a thief or commonly is do it yourself. Right. Would it be fair to assume, not all the times, but when you go, if your supervisors or some supervisors ask you this, go, do us a favour, lads and lasses, can you just move that lot? And you go, yeah, alright.
That's right, because if it's possible,
Where?
it's not
Where are we going with it? Is it fair to say some people will do that?
Yeah.
Right. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Right. We're going to look at the whole task. We're supposed to assess it. Greg, I'm disappointed. This was your briefing. You've been really quiet. Right. Alex, where is my card? I do know. You saw me turn up this morning. Yeah. Right. So people go, yeah, move that, and then you go, yeah, where? Oh, it's the other side of the side. What? Right. So you're going to look at the whole task. Distance we've got to go. What's the route like? Okay. Conditions. Anything there? Any awkward turning? Steps? Look at the individual. Have you had manual handling training, Alex? Have you been trained in manual handling? Yeah. Oh, so you know how to live safely?
Yes.
Right. So you're good to go. You got any back problems?
No.
Any health problems?
No.
Fitting well?
Perfect.
Brilliant. All right. I might check that. Supervisors do this? No. Shift that. Load.
No.
Well, Ben says, but it looks heavy. We tend to do that, don't we? Yeah, I'll probably be able to manage that. So we always check the weight. Automatically, we look at the weight. All right. We look at the shape of it, size of it. Might not be that heavy. It might not be. It's just awkward to lift. Someone who's about plasterboards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 25 kg up to some boards are like what, 40, 50?
62 is the heaviest one. 62 kg is the heaviest one.
Is it? So 62 kgs and then trying to carry it like that. I had to get. My lad plays drums. 15 now. Every parent sings their praises about their children. He's got a gift to play drums. I tried playing them once. I'm awful. All right. I'm a great air drummer. Fantastic air drummer. And every time I've watched him play, I go watch most of his lessons and I go, oh yeah, everything's working independently. You sit me down at a drum kit and you get that happen. It don't work. He just picked it up from playing for about 10 years. I just went, right, he ain't having it in the house. Put him in the garage. I converted the garage into a den. I went and dot and dabbed. So I ordered this plasterboard and bloke, it's either B&Q or juices. Anyway, he turns up, he's got the hire and he's lifting this pallet of about 24 plasterboards. And I went, where are you putting it? He went, on the road. I went, what? He went, well, on the path, mate. Half on, half off. I went, you know, just put it on my fence in the garden. I can't do that, mate. I said, why not? He went, health and safety. And I went, honestly, health and safety? He went, what if it drops and it's your fence? I went, oh, well, that's anything you want to say, I'm happy. I'll even remove a panel for you. It'll take me like a minute. Nah, mate, it has to go on there. He just didn't want to be there anymore. So I had to get these, when they're dropping there, how do you pick the panels up? You can't really do anything apart from pick them up from one side, step on them and then like kind of grab it, like that. And the way into the back room, I've already put the doors into, I put like patio doors on the back of the garage. That's open, gate's open, he was lying here walking around the corner like this. It was a bit like this into the garage. I had to squeeze in like that, it's the only way I could get it in. Alright. Now they're not heavy. These were in particular. Only 8 before, 12 mil. But talk about awkward. I couldn't carry it like that, because it was a bit windy, and then I had to come down and get into the garage. So I had to carry it like this. Try carrying 24 plasterboards like that. Alright. Over like 5 to 10 metres of the path. I finished and I was like a little T-Rex. Alright, I was like, oh. And I was like, aching a little bit. Okay? So we look at the shape, we look at the size, we look at the weight, we have to take that into consideration. Okay? We look to see any moving parts, is there any fluid inside? Is there anything that's going to change the centre of gravity? You ever picked a fluid container, liquid container up? It's not exactly full. Yeah. As you start moving with it, what's it do to you? You're like, whoa. It starts putting you all over the place. Again, massive stresses throughout the back. So that's the load. And finally, environment. Yeah, sunny, dull, rainy, slippery, windy. Okay. if we get anything in this lot, okay, that's going to increase the risk, what are we going to try and do with it?
Reduce.
Reduce? Yeah, or remove. Whatever's reasonably practicable. Alright, the whole job. Alex getting this telly from here down to my car. Alright, it is just parked sort of down there, just by the compound next door. Okay, so it's not that far, but you've got to get through this door, down the steps, down the staircase, outside. You might have someone to open the doors for you. If you've got a lift in a building, do that. You might bring the car closer together, very close to the doors. Individual, just make sure people are trained up. Okay. Make sure they're fit and well to lift. The load, can you split it down into smaller loads? If not, can you put handles on it, straps on it? Okay. If you're going to get other people to help you lift, just be careful, that can also increase it. Because in the environment, can't really do a lot about it. Just make sure if you are going outdoors, if you're going from a dark area to a light area or a light area to a dark area, just be careful that your eyes adjust before you're moving so you can see. Okay. Right, so commonly, this. If you've got any issues, avoid manual handling. And as we said before, manual handling can affect the body in lots of different ways. Right, it's about perfect timing. That's the end of power, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, any questions? That's an hour and 40 minutes, lunch. That was an hour and 40 minutes since the last break, I mean, not an hour and 40 minutes lunch.